No green sheet.
Ethel is only 8 years old, but she couldn't go to school today. She had to work in the fields alongside her family. After the harvest is in, there won't be any more money until the landlord sells the tobacco. Child labor can be found just about everywhere in Malawi, one of the poorest countries in the world. Half the people here live under the poverty line, and nearly 1.5 million children are in child labor. Both tradition and the cycle of poverty make change difficult, but the introduction of the SNAP program has made a positive difference in people's attitudes.
These are our children. They are exposed to various dangers there. We see the children suffering, so we have that passion to rescue our children in the district.
Working in Kasungu, Mzimba, Mulanje, and Lilongwe districts, the ILO supported its partners to develop an effective model of intervention against child labor. Since the introduction of the SNAP program in Malawi in 2009, funded by the U.S. Department of Labor, more than 5,500 children have been withdrawn or prevented from entering child labor. More than 300 of them have completed vocational training. More than 800 parents benefited from livelihood support and were trained in income-generating activities, including how to save money and set up their own businesses, using the ILO's Start Your Own Business tools. The SNAP model combines a community-based child labor monitoring system, investment in infrastructure, and coordinated community action to identify child laborers and refer them to alternatives, including education, training, and eventually employment.
I believe that the child labor monitoring system is the basic tool for any child labor development program. The community are used to collect data on the working children in the community, and the data is then sent to district child labor committees, which analyze the data and take appropriate referral steps for the children.
The Child Labor Monitoring System, or CLM, identifies children in or at risk for child labor, refers them to the appropriate alternatives, and allows the monitoring of the child labor situation in the target areas. It is the community-based approach which makes the CLM so effective. It discovers, monitors, and prevents children from falling into child labor. Using the CLM, the government decides which services to combat child labor are most appropriate in specific communities. Every day, Olive Panyanja inspects farms in Kasungu district, looking for child laborers. As district labor officer, Olive has the authority to arrest any landowner suspected of using child labor. Using the SNAP community-based approach, local leaders champion the fight against child labor. Representatives from church, government, NGOs, employers and workers organizations, and law enforcement meet in district child labor and community child labor committees that run the child labor monitoring system. The committees identify children in child labor and refer them to school or training.
The problem is in the village, where they are with the chiefs. They have indeed accepted that child labor is a problem. How do we eliminate it? We have to eliminate it with them and the district child labor committee together. That's why we have instituted the community child labor structures inside them to be part and parcel. And even the senior chiefs are part and parcel of the child labor committees.
The active involvement of the traditional authority representing all the village chiefs is a powerful influence in the program's success.
The chief was going around the community, identifying children who should not have been working. He brought us here to learn job skills.
Using traditional models, the the chiefs developed local bylaws on child labor.
There is a punishment that local chiefs impose on offenders, and when it is necessary, we even refer people to the police for prosecution.
Because of the intervention of the Action Programme, the ILO and its partners, more children are going to school. That's why child labour is being reduced.
After being trained in income-generating activities and business skills by SNAP, people in local communities organized into IGA cooperatives to raise awareness about child labor, generate income and savings, and provide microloans to families so children don't have to work. One of the most successful cooperatives can be found dressed all in green in Chuzira Village's Area 23, a strip of small enterprises in Lilongwe. Ginny Majika is the group's leader.
The message to people is that children who are underage are not supposed to work. They should go to school.
Ginny's own daughter is now off the street and in school, thanks to the program.
At first, I couldn't go to school, and I worked as a street seller. But then the organization came and they said we are not supposed to be selling these things, that we should be going to school.
When child laborers are identified and withdrawn or prevented from entering child labor, the CCLCs and DCLCs refer many of them to school. The youngest are enrolled in 10 multi-purpose learning centers, getting basic non-formal education to prepare them for public school. They also learn about child labor, often using the ILO's SCREAM program. Many of the children are enrolled in formal education, but Malawi is a poor country and there are challenges. Many schools simply don't have the classrooms and teachers to handle the increased enrollment. There are no chairs or desks for these children watching a role play about child labor. These children have to attend classes under a tree because there is no more room in the school.
When it rains, the kids have to go back home, and then they are at risk once again for going back into child labor.
Children between 14 and 18 years old are referred to vocational training. They learn skills like carpentry, tailoring, barbering, and setting up solar energy systems at the project's 8 service outlets, which also double as retail stores. Besides learning a vocation, the trainees learned business skills on how to set up their own business. What's made here is sold here, with part of the profit going to the young trainees, and the rest going to fund the efforts against child labor. As an incentive to sustain the child labor monitoring system, all of the infrastructure, the facilities and the equipment was bought by the project and now belongs to the community. It has changed lives.
Mwanga project tango diambika metina lili kumbuyo uko.
As you can see from my face, this project has made me very happy. This has really helped me and my friends. We can support ourselves because of the project.
The role of IRO is very critical in this process because IRO has actually provided the resources but also the skills in us to make sure that we are able to deliver the program in the community.
The vocational skills training can lead directly into employment as well. Joseph Omari is a former child laborer who was identified by a previous ILO IPEC program and trained as a tailor. He set up his own business, which is thriving.
If I compare what I'm doing now with what I was doing in the past, my lifestyle and my status has really changed. I can buy whatever I want thanks to this business, and before I wasn't able to buy anything.
His customers are satisfied.
What is very important to me is what I get here in terms of customer service and customer care. This tailor is very friendly, and whatever I tell him to do, I get exactly what I want.
SNAP's tripartite framework means the efforts against child labor have strong involvement from workers' organizations, employers, and government. Working together, they are changing the legal and policy frameworks governing child labor in Malawi.
It is our duty to educate our children about their rights and about child labor. Children need to know their rights and dangers and risks of work to their health, safety, and education. We are in this together, and there's work to be done. We cannot afford to allow our children to be abused and to be used.
At the huge Lilongwe auction floor, the season's buying and selling of tobacco is just beginning. Among the employers, the awareness of the risks of child labor and the commitment to fight it is high.
The employers are advised to make sure that employment excludes children. ECAM itself, which is an association of Employers Concerned Association, has come up with employers' guideline on the matters relating to child labor. And these guidelines are circulated to all its council members.
On the large tobacco farms, the story is the same.
We do not employ anyone under the age of 18. We always confirm that anyone who is looking for employment with us is over 18 years of age.
This farm also claims all the smallholder fields it contracts with are child labor free. The company says it regularly inspects its smaller growers, and any child found working is sent home. But many smallholder farmers sell their tobacco directly to the auction house, which is bought in turn by multinational companies, and many of those small farms are not inspected for child labor. The tenancy system, in which entire families live and work on an owner's land, often getting the lowest wages and living in a permanent cycle of debt, has a long tradition in Malawi and can be considered forced labor. It was the recognition at the district level that the tenancy system had to change, which led to concerted action against child labor.
Since the ILO program, the child labor program, came to Kasungu, almost every chief is aware that where there is a tenant, I think they have to check the type of life these people are living. So I would say with the coming of this program, the life of tenants has gradually improved.
The project's strategy included reaching children in forced child labor under the tenancy system. Judith Nyiranda is a smallhold farmer with 5 tenants on her land. Supported by the ILO, one of her tenants' children is now out of work and enrolled in one of Malawi's top high schools, the Kamuzu Academy. As an employer, Judith's attitude towards child labor is clear.
Those people who employ children as workers should be punished, and stiff penalties should be given to them, so they should stop.
Policy changes are on the way. SNAP Malawi has been supporting the government, workers' organizations, and employers in the revision of the tenancy bill, comprehensive and historic legislation to address the tenancy issue. Adoption of the bill into law is pending. In Malawi's cities and towns, most child laborers work as domestic servants, washing, cooking, and cleaning. They can be victims of abuse and neglect. For the first time ever in Malawi, an increasing number of domestic workers who have reached the minimum legal age to work are working under contract thanks to the SNAP program. The contract, which is signed by the worker, the village chief, a representative of the CCLC, and the employer, stipulates working hours and conditions.
The contract is very important to me. Before I had a contract, I was working the whole day, from dawn to sundown, but now I only work half a day because my employer is tied to the terms of the contract.
Under the terms of the contract, the domestic workers are allowed to spend part of the day away from work at the service outlet, learning vocational skills. The domestic workers gather regularly at forums organized by the project to discuss problems at work and find solutions together. The idea of contracts for domestic workers is endorsed by Malawi's Congress of Trade Unions.
Where there's that kind of contract, I think we'll be able to monitor and then help where necessary.
As the SNAP project draws to a close, the structures and institutions it established will continue. The work of the District Child Labour and Community Child Labour Committees, the Community Infrastructure Programme, and the Child Labour Monitoring System will go on. The traditional authorities, through the chiefs and village headmen, will continue identifying children in child labour, and using the Community Infrastructure Programme and the Child Labour Monitoring System, will keep referring those children found in or at risk for child labour to school and training. The service outlets, now owned outright by the communities, will keep training children removed from child labour in vocational skills, and the business skills they learned will help them sell what they make to customers and set up their own businesses. The forums for domestic workers will continue meeting to discuss solutions to improve working conditions for domestic workers, and the schools will continue teaching children about the risks of child labour. Since the SNAP project began, attitudes about child labour are beginning to change in Malawi. The commitment remains, but much more needs to be done.
I normally tell the district to say, can you tell the MPs? Can you tell even the ministers to see the situation we are having in Kasungu? And also when they are doing their meetings, they have also to mention this issue of child labor, to change the attitude of the communities to employ adult labor, not the children.
The government attitude towards child labor is very positive. They want to resolve the issue. At present, the funding provided is not sufficient, and therefore support of international community is required to the country till they reach that level.
The SNAP project not only changed attitudes, it changed lives.
For the future, I have a vision to have my own shop, and I won't employ children. I will only employ adults.
The integrated convergence approach against child labour is paying dividends in Malawi. Thanks to SNAP and its many champions fighting against child labour at the national, district, and local levels, thousands of children and families in Malawi now have every reason to believe theirs will be an independent future, free of child labour.